All right, breaking news. The Jackets and Dogs are going to play on Friday night again, and honestly, probably from here on out. This is something I've been talking about for years, been kind of signaling that this was likely to happen. The ACC announcing overnight, Monday night, that Tech and Georgia will play on a Friday night, another Black Friday game for Georgia Tech. And it's not shocking. This game has kind of changed fundamentally now. I don't see it going back to Saturday soon. That could change, but now we're seeing Tech's not even playing this game on campus anymore. They've been paid $10 million to go play it at the Dome. It's going to be 80-90% Georgia fans. Now it's going on Friday night. Well, I'm saying Friday night. We don't know that, but I was just gonna tell you it's gonna be on Friday night. I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if it weren't Friday night. There'd have to be a game that that I'm not aware of being played that night. And I'm not aware of it. So, but here's the thing. Why is this game being played on Friday night? Okay, let me explain it to you real quick. There's two real basic reasons. One is that it's possible to play this game now. That it's possible for ABC or Disney, in this case. Disney controls the contract for the ACC and the SEC. And this is the first season in 2024 that happened. They have never controlled the full contract since 1996. Since this was available to be had, Disney has never owned it. Therefore, they were never going to invest an ACC SEC rivalry and put it on a Friday night. They just weren't going to do it. They weren't because every other year they couldn't put it on ABC. It'd have to be on ESPN or it'd get picked up by CBS. Now that Disney controls this completely, they're going to say, hey, we don't want Georgia to get lost in the shuffle on the penultimate weekend of the college football season. We don't want it to be that one of the top 4 brands or top 2 brands in college television, maybe the top 1 from regular season last year. We're not going to let them just go away. I mean, they're not Vanderbilt. They're not. This isn't Mississippi State. This isn't the Egg Bowl. This is clean old-fashioned hate, a rivalry that's kind of died in a way, not because of Georgia dominating Tech. I mean, Georgia's dominated Tech for decades. The game has gotten lost because, Tech isn't what they used to be certainly in the 80s and the 70s, but really the game just gets lost in the shuffle. It's not as important as Ohio State, Michigan, or Auburn, Alabama, or whatever, but the game being put on Friday night, 8.5 million people watched that game. It was the 15th most watched regular season game in college football last year. I mean, for Tech, Georgia, like that, it's almost double the audience that game, gets. So, this is probably not going to change. And I think it will be really strange to see this game not in Atlanta, for those of us who grew up in Atlanta. Not that the game's in Atlanta, it's in Atlanta every other year. It's that it's going to be at the Dome, and it's just like, this is strange. This is going to be a strange thing. But we'll see if Tech continues doing that. I mean, I don't know if they will. I mean, if it were me and I were Tech, I understand grabbing the $10 million. They need it. A lot of people need $10 million these days. Man, I just don't know if I'd sell out for a game where my arch rival is in town. That's the part that, I don't know if I could do that. But, Tech's in the position they're in. Vanderbilt, in the future, could Vanderbilt say, all right, well, we'll play at Nissan Stadium, the new Nissan Stadium, if we get $10 or $15 million in Tennessee, But Vanderbilt's not in that position because Vanderbilt has the SEC to lean on, and Tech doesn't. They have the ACC. So folks should get used to this. This is the new normal. These games are becoming bigger and bigger in terms of audience size, as well as in terms of just more people will watch this game in a 2-year period than have ever watched Tech Georgia live. Okay, whether that's on television or in person. And so if you're Josh Brooks or Kirby, if I'm Josh Brooks and I'm taking a step back and I say, what helps us grow our brand? What helps us become bigger than Ohio State? I mean, if we're in a competition with Ohio State, because it's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Alabama. That's been the four that have been the most watched this decade, okay? And it's no surprise that those four are the only teams that have won the national championship this decade, now that I say that out loud. So but it's not just that. Those four have been relatively consistent. Georgia's not had a bad season yet. I mean, Michigan had a bad season this year. Alabama had a bad season this year, and then Michigan beat Alabama. But my point is that they've all made their runs. They've been in the college football playoff multiple times. I think Georgia's games, whether they've got Clemson on the schedule in the future, I think that game will be home and home. But the last two weren't. So, if I'm Josh Brooks, I say, what do I need to do to grow our base, our audience even more? There's 12 million, about 11 million people live in Georgia. How can I make as many of them as possible Georgia fans? It's not just the alums. It's not just kids that go to school there and their dad becomes a fan or whatever. How can I, grow this as much as possible? Part of that is playing on a Friday night. You're the only team playing, unless we're talking about Boise State or something like that. No major team other than Georgia's playing that Friday. I mean, State and Ole Miss, but no offense, they're not in that stratosphere of teams. So if you're Kirby, you get an extra day off and you play whoever it is the day before. I can't remember who they're playing the week before Tech. It's no one good. Tech, on the other hand, has got to play Pitt in Atlanta. Like, I wouldn't be too pumped up about that. I know Brent Key is really jazzed up about this game and everything. Georgia plays Charlotte the week before they play the Jackets. And so, I'm going to update this right now on Dawg Post. I jumped on here with y'all as fast as I could. But, this is another Friday night game for Georgia. I think that, what does it mean? Well, it means they get either an extra day for they get an extra day to get ready for the SEC championship, or they get an extra day to get ready for the college football playoff. It's that simple. It's that's what they're thinking, and usually they're thinking it the right way. And but I'm just looking at the schedule here for Georgia on Dawg Post. I don't know how quick it's going to propagate the adjustment I just made to it being on a Friday night, but this is a manageable schedule. I saw Clemson watching this ACC reveal. I saw Clemson's schedule. I mean, geez, that's way more difficult than they usually get themselves into. But when you look at, and I'm going to put it on the screen here, when you look at this situation, you're going to open with Marshall, you got Austin Peay, and then you're at Tennessee and Alabama, but you've got an off week in there. That's a tough back-to-back, but you've got an off week right there. Kentucky, and then you go to Auburn. These are your toughest games. Three of the four toughest games of the season, in theory, are going to be right here. And I say toughest because of the situationally speaking, Tennessee, Auburn, both on the road. Look, that's going to be a challenge. Okay, you see the Rebels come to Athens. That'll be a different Ole Miss team than this year. Is Florida going to be better? I mean, they may be better, and they still have the same record. Then you got to go to State. Starkville, that's not a tough place to play. And then, you got Texas. So Georgia will have 13 days between the Texas game and playing Georgia Tech. And I'm just updating it because I'm just trying to dork out here and see how quick it's propagating. It's not propagating quick enough, I'll say that. But, as you can see here from, on Dawg Post, I pushed this out right away. 8.5 million viewers, 8 overtime victory. It was a huge game and win for Georgia. Brent Key, allegedly was telling Andrea Adelson, the ESPN, or showing her that he's got this on his screensaver on his phone, talking about the Georgia game. Look, I sympathize with Brent. I get it. I understand that. But in my opinion, he's doing the same thing that everybody at Tech has always done, which is fall into the trap that it's only about Georgia and it's always about Georgia. And, that they can't, it can't just be about Tech. I would focus on Tech, and the Georgia thing will take care of itself. Brent, your athletic department sold you out, man. I mean, look, for $10 million, they gave Georgia a home game in Atlanta against you. That was your home game. So, I'm not making fun either. I'm being straight up here. They sold you out, or you agreed to be sold out. I don't know which it was. So I get his passion. Having played there, I had a lot of friends that played at Tech, coached at Tech. I understand the Tech stuff, but I would focus on Tech. That schedule for the Jackets is, they're not playing. They're not playing Notre Dame, as I understand it. This is not the easiest schedule on earth. They got to go to Colorado to play Dion. 2 weeks later, playing Clemson, who apparently everyone is anointing as like a serious national championship contender. They got to go to Wake. They should win that game. They play Virginia Tech at home, at Duke, Syracuse. This is where it gets a little tricky for them. They host Syracuse. They go to NC State. They go to Boston College, and then they play Pitt, and then they play Georgia. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that people might know, Georgia's good, Pitt's good, Syracuse is good. Going to NC State is hard for Tech. And so that will be a, challenging time. I mean, Tech could come into this thing, to the end of the season, something like, 5-2, and then they got to go play Syracuse. Then they got to conclude their season with a challenging end of the season, honestly. Syracuse, at NC State, at Boston College, you host Pitt, and then you play, the Dogs at Mercedes-Benz. That's going to be a tricky, conclusion to Tech's 2025 season. Now, not everybody's back. Haynes King's back. This is a good Tech team. How good? We're going to have to see. I mean, the last game they played, they lost to Vanderbilt. So, I mean, there's sometimes we kind of overdo it. Generally speaking, that is a lot of college football. We overdo things. But Tech came within a play of beating Georgia this past season. I mean, it's that, can't sit here and act like, they wouldn't have a chance in Atlanta when they play, Georgia. Like, yeah, I'm already still, ESPN's updated this now, which they, there's no other game announced that day besides Iowa at Nebraska, which literally no one will give a shit about, okay? You got Bama Auburn on that Saturday. You got Florida State. They actually have Tech Georgia twice on here, which is hilarious. Clemson, Carolina Clemson, Texas and A&M. Rivalry weekend is a great weekend, no doubt. Michigan, Ohio State. None of those games are going to get moved to Friday. Oregon, Washington could, but that we'll just see. I mean, I think that the Egg Bowl will move to Friday. And we'll just see from there. I will admit I do miss the fact that you had the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving. I don't think that's ever going to go back. And the other thing is too here now, LSU Oklahoma is sort of a prime position to move into that Friday slot too. To be honest, because those are two kind of marquee programs, and they're not great right now. But you could start what TV people want, what any business person wants, is the ability to see into the future. They want to know they want certainty. And, right now they have certainty with Georgia and Tech. Even when Georgia was not winning SEC championships and competing for national championships, Georgia was still a big brand. Like LSU, they're still a big brand right now, okay? So if you could take LSU and Oklahoma and say, hey, we got two pretty big brands. We got one real big brand in LSU. We got a pretty big brand in Oklahoma. Can we package that up and like maybe put the Egg Bowl at noon, put LSU Oklahoma at 3:30 and then cap it off with Tech Georgia. And then on Saturday, you can still fill everything up on ABC. You can go Texas A&M Texas at night, Iron Bowl, at midday, and you could say like Tennessee Vandy, or whoever else is alive at that point in the SEC. That would be Florida State. I mean, there's just so many options and so many great games. That's why you don't want to waste Tech Georgia. I mean, Tech Georgia, and this is me saying this as someone from Atlanta. I get it, but you don't want to waste that game. And for too long, that game has sort of been wasted on those Saturdays. And that's the part that's kind of, to me, what they're trying to remedy here. So they're trying to finally get back to this game being a program that they can get used to. Just TV. And I think it's a smart move. That's why I've been talking about it for a long, long time. And you should expect Tech Georgia on Friday night from here on out. Hey, make sure you're going to Red Zone in Athens on Clayton Street, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.